Hey, welcome back to Jadana Live, a place where you are invited to come as you are and encouraged to live like you're trying. Super excited to have you all here. My name's Jadana. I am, the host of this show here. And I started this podcast as an overthinker, as a podcast for overthinkers trying to just still make their way through uncertainty, but to build confidence by actually doing things. So here we're connecting to ourselves, the environment, community, with no expertise required. I just don't want any BS either. So you're welcome here. Thanks so much for showing up. And yeah, I got a fun mini moments episode today where I just had some thoughts come to me and I was like, okay, this is one of the things I'm going to process out loud without a great answer and see what folks think about it. So if you've listened to the podcast before, thank you so much. Please go to Spotify or YouTube to rate it, as well as Apple Podcasts. And I do have a video version of this podcast if you don't know that because you only listen to it. I forget to say that, but it's on YouTube weekly. So please go there to subscribe. And if you're new, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. That's for the newbies. Welcome. Hope you stick around. Hope you like what you hear. And if you don't, well, this isn't the podcast for you. Move along. So, we are going to do some affirmations in a bit, and then we'll get right into things. So, let's do some affirmations, baby. Welcome to the affirmations segment. If you're unfamiliar with affirmations, they are simply like mantras or phrases you repeat so they can kind of seep into your subconscious mind to help you unlearn and harmful maybe patterns you have that you're not aware of or relearn new patterns that can just help strengthen either insecurities or just help you meet goals that you would like to meet. I really like them and started using them when I did hypnobirthing with my kid, which is just like a set of birthing affirmations essentially that you really study and practice as you're in the process of giving birth. And I noticed it helped drastically with my first kid when I was like completely in it. So since then, I've been doing them, but also my whole life, having been raised in the church and being very familiar with like prayer and meditation, it's very similar to continuing to rehearse and repeat and pray the same thing over and over, getting that into your mind as well. So no matter what you've kind of come from, whether it's like faith wise or just in your normal life, um, for example, worrying is just in my mind, and I've like read before, just like a negative affirmation you're continuing to tell yourself that can oftentimes make what you're worried about occur. Um, so yeah, we just try here to get ahead of those negative thoughts and try to really encourage the positive ones for specific topics to get in your mind. So, we're talking about friendships today, which can be tricky for some of us. So, gonna go ahead and just encourage us by doing some positive affirmations related to that. So, go ahead and flatten your feet on the ground. Let's lift our shoulders. Oh my gosh, do you hear that? I had like, ooh, I'm so tight. Okay. Go ahead and take the deepest breath you've taken all day. And repeat after me. I am a great friend. I am a great friend. I am reliable. I am reliable. I am unselfish. I am unselfish. I show up in my friendships. I show up in my friendships. My friends know that I love them. My friends know that I love them. And I apologize to my friends when I'm wrong. And I apologize to my friends when I'm wrong. I seek out mutually beneficial friendships. I seek out mutually beneficial friendships. When my friends cannot show up, I remain committed, if it's healthy and if you still want it. And when my friends cannot show up, I remain committed. Again, if it's healthy, if you want to, if, it's just a short time. All right. Well, thank you all for that. And feel free to return to the affirmations on the segments at all if there's ever like a topic you're like, dang, I really do need some help with what Jadana is saying being true. Yeah. Revisit it. Okay. All right. Let's move on. All right, welcome to the mini moments segment where I share something with you all that's been on my mind and invite you to do what this podcast is all about, which is process before we even know an answer, but still be committed to really trying and thinking through what something means. I always kind of refer to myself as an overthinker. I shouldn't because I don't want to sell myself short. My mind has helped me in a trillion ways. And I really love my mind. But I do feel like I can churn on things, situations, ideas, etc., more than some other folks. So sometimes it does feel like, dang, why do I do this? But other times I'm like, gosh, I'm glad I'm like that because I wouldn't have done that way. So one thing that's kind of been churning lately came on my mind when I was in Michigan, Glen Arbor, with my family like a couple weeks ago, which, if you've been, lovely area, shout out. Had never been that north in Michigan before. Um, so super recommend that. But yeah, I was in Michigan for spring break and I was with my family and a good friend of mine who lives about 2.5 hours from the area who I hadn't connected with intentionally in a while, reached out about meeting us there. And I was like flattered because I hadn't talked to her in a bit, but we again had some touch points, but just nothing significant. So I was a little surprised because, we're historically like best friends. And so I was a little surprised she wanted to come and connect. Um, because like I said, despite our relationship prior and the depth of our relationship prior, not significantly connecting and honestly almost a year kind of made me ask myself, like, I'm not exactly sure where we stand. Are we even friends anymore the way we used to be? Um, and honestly, I've been pregnant, so I haven't been able to really have a good answer to that question, but just understand that's kind of where my mind was. I was used to connecting with her at a level of depth and a level of consistency. And when that slowed down and we didn't have, there's like no conversation about it, which doesn't always happen. But I was just kind of thinking, okay, what does that friendship look like? Maybe we are just naturally going in different ways. And so, what I really want to talk about here is just processing the thoughts that came to me, which were how long can you go without speaking to someone you think of as a friend before you're not friends anymore? Um, I'm navigating these questions for the first time because historically, I'm great at keeping in touch with people. I'm great at keeping in touch with lots of people. And I've said, I feel like I have an ability to maintain a lot of friendships with like various tiers of friends, like best friends, acquaintances, just folks in my community, whatever. But the past couple of years, I feel like major life transitions, like my kids, moving cross country, losing jobs, having to kind of restart in a lot of different ways financially, being closer to my family in proximity. So then just like seeing them way more has limited my ability to keep up with the amount of people I've been used to keeping up with my whole life. And now I'm kind of figuring out, okay, as I am more settled with my kids, I've now been living in my house for a couple of years. Um, who do I reconnect with? Do those folks still see me as a friend if it's been a minute since I reached out to like a big bulk of people? Where are apologies necessary for people you really do love and care for, but like haven't really been responding to a ton of texts, haven't been reaching out to hang out? People who you know your relationship looked a certain way and you've consciously just kind of been like, but there's been no word about it. Um, or do you just kind of pick up where you left off and not overthink that? So, one of my solutions to this was just reaching out to the folks that I engage with the most. Like the friends I still feel really connected to because I see them or we have just like overlapping interests that I know that person is still into, simply just connecting with those people. Um, but the reality is there are still people kind of on like the periphery of my life that I still love and want to at least see like once a quarter or like twice a year. So it didn't seem as simple to be like, oh, just only hang out with the people you see. And socially, I've always been the person who kind of casts a super wide net. It used to be wide and deep, and then obviously you go to like college and you are in your mid 20s and you're like, well, that's not realistic and I'm exhausted. But the width was still there. As of now, it's like I have few best friends, but tons of people that I truly love and would like if they were to text me, would still go to lunch with or would still hang out with. It would still like night on the town with and have a killer time. Um, and so yeah, still have like a lot of acquaintances or buddies who I want to network with or get a drink with. And I was talking to my husband about this when I was like jotting notes down, and I was like, yeah, there are probably 50 to 100 people in my life that are buddies, acquaintances, folks in my community who I love and would want to spend time with, but aren't my best friends. And those are the ones I struggle. If I haven't heard from them or if I haven't reached out to them in a long time, where does just picking up where we left off happen naturally? And it's just hard to know. Like, my immediate thought was, "Okay, maybe I don't do anything." I already have this newborn I'm tethered to. If you know, you know. She's not taking a bottle right now, so she and I are besties, and she goes everywhere. She and I are already besties, but, you know. Um, and do I just connect with these people when they come to mind? Like, "Oh my gosh, I love this person. Let me just text them, 'Hey, thinking of you,' assuming we can just pick up where we left off." Or should I formally kind of like loosely remind myself in my head, like, who do I want to connect with? Who do I still, and kind of my peripheral friendships, want to connect with? And kind of like think about the last time I reached out to them and try to reach out to at least maintain some base level of relationship. Um, I sure, I know some people who like track who they've networked with so they can kind of keep track, okay, like I said, the quarterly thing, I want to talk to this person every quarter to kind of maintain a relationship, blah, blah, blah. I feel and they kind of pick out who those people are. I see folks on like LinkedIn doing that. Um, but that's so task oriented and for me feels so unnatural and forced. And I'm just like, I can't be fake. And I'm just like, I don't want to try to do something like that where it seems really fake and weird. Um, so kind of here's where I'm coming from and kind of the basis of the thought. Yes, when I started talking about with my friend in Michigan and being like, oh, whoa, to her, we just are picking up where we left off. I wasn't assuming that. Um, I don't want people who I know and love but haven't spoken to consistently to think I don't care about our friendship. I think that is really important to me, for them to not think that I don't see them as a friend anymore. And I know a thought could be, wow, you really think they're thinking that much about you? At least that's how I felt immediately after having that thought, like, oh gosh, this seems super self-absorbed or something. I'm aware that these people, you know, may not even care or may not be thinking about that. But it's more so the fact that I want to still maintain some sort of relationship with these, with like folks that I love, but don't have the capacity to maintain a consistent friendship with. And I don't want just running into each other and happening for it, like, to feel that we're just picking up where we left off when because I just am not, I don't assume that will happen. And I have the same question, like I said, about this, but in a specific work context, like how you genuinely network with people in a way that doesn't feel utterly selfish, like where you can keep up enough for them to know that you just enjoy them. Um, and the reality is for me, like I moved thousands of miles away from former colleagues, and now I'm living a kind of a completely different life. And so when something comes up, work related, that pertains to someone I knew, who I worked with in person out west, I do reach out to them, but usually it's because I'm trying to make a connection with someone else or a role came up that they can connect me to. And it's less of like, oh, hey, how are you? One of my good pals, from California did just give me a call randomly, and it was amazing. We spoke for like 30 minutes. It was great to catch up. But I was so flattered and again, shocked because I was like, oh, she still sees me like that. That's lovely. I'm glad she does because I haven't had time to connect with her. So to me, it just feels like if I'm not actively maintaining a relationship, I feel like it's no longer where it was. And this is giving anxious attachment. So blame my parents. I know my parents just cannot stand how much I blame them for, and they're great, and I love them, and it's just like, when little things come up, I'm like, wow, who taught me an anxious attachment style? That must be, must come from them. I, I can't put my finger on it, but I'm just saying, do the research, boo. Um, but yeah, some folks, it's like you don't have time to really be with, but you feel the same. In others, and this is the kicker, others, you might feel the same, but they don't. I've had that happen. How am I supposed to know that's the relationship that's gonna not pick up where it left off? If we're assuming that, you assume that. And so I think after that and maybe a couple other relationships where you do enter back and you're like, oh, whoa, this is completely different and this isn't picking up where I left off at all. It's like, okay, there need to be a little more maintenance with the people you do care about so you can help ensure that a little bit more. Um, and I've been the sort of person who thinks this deeply about my interpersonal relationships my entire life. Like for better or for worse. But here's the other thing, and something I want to keep super apparent on this podcast. That is just how I've always been. Thinking about relationships in this way is how I've always been. How I've always been. And even in high school, I remember there was like a friend of mine who would act differently sometimes and who left me very uncertain. I was like, where is this friendship? Because sometimes you be acting like this. Sometimes you be acting like this. And I've always also been the person who calls a spade a spade. And I remember just calling her out and being like, you aren't showing up when these people come around, you be acting different. And I just want to know, like, is this a thing or is this not a thing? Let me know. And it caused this whole thing. Anyway, we're still friends to this day, so we moved on. But I have just been sensitive to the nature and status of a friendship or a relationship. And for me, it's just helpful to know where we stand. The reality of things, though. You're you're never gonna really know. And this is what I tell myself. You're never gonna really know where you stand in a relationship because certain people can say something and behind your back be experiencing you in a way that you didn't even realize and not even like you. Have had that happen. Or there can be folks who just don't see the need, and I feel like this is most people who don't see the need to just like have a status check. And it's kind of weird too. Like I'm not reaching out to people being like, "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while, just checking that we're friends." Like don't get me wrong. That is not happening because that's weird as fuck. Um, but I know that I still have the thoughts and the desire and just kind of like the interest in folks that like I've known over time. And my husband made a good point as I was prepping for this, and he was just like, why don't you just believe that if you're supposed to see a person again, that you will? And if you're supposed to reconnect with someone you've known in your past that you don't see anymore, you will reconnect if it's meant to happen. And if it's not meant to be, it won't. At first, I was like, oh, dang. Okay, that's really beautiful. Like, que sera, sera, what's in the cards will be dealt, yada, yada. But I also feel like that takes a little bit of agency out of it because I don't know, that just gets a little dangerous to me because let's say it was a significant friendship and you have just been busy and blah, 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 and you have been waiting for that person to just naturally re-show up in your life to invest. I mean, we are all incredibly busy. What if that naturally just doesn't happen? Then maybe there are like hurt feelings and blah 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 because that person's like, oh, I didn't think you cared about me. You never reached out, and you were like, oh, well, I just assumed if we were supposed to be in each other's lives that like you would have showed up again. It would have just like been in the car. It's like I'm just like, ugh, I can't really be fully sold on that. But yeah, that's the thought. That's the thought from today. I can't say I've got a clear outcome from the processing. It's something I'm still processing and want to do out loud with you all. So reach out at jadonalive@gmail.com if you got any thoughts. I would love to, when I have mini moments segments, return to the questions I asked to see if there was input from you all, just to see how else people are thinking about that. I am aware that I'm in my early 30s, and so this may be a stage of life thing where if you're maybe a bit younger or older, you may be past this or you may have not encountered it yet. But for folks at any stage where you just find this idea interesting, reach out to me. I want to know what people think. So, yeah, I am excited. I've got a good couple interviews in the coming weeks. I will be returning to work very soon as well, which is crazy. So, yeah, reach out. The pod will still be podding. And yeah, bi-weekly shows. I need to update. I don't think I have that on the platforms anymore. But outside of that, thanks so much for listening to the show. Again, if you're new, this is kind of what the mini moment segment looks like. If you have been here for a minute, just reach out to me with your thoughts on this. I would love to hear. But outside of that, take it easy, breathe deeply, and keep doing what you do. I will catch you next time. Same place, same vibe. Bye.